Good evening and welcome. This is a public hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Evanston. The zoning ordinance directs this body to hear applications for major variations, special uses, and appeals from decisions of the zoning administrator. Depending on the type of matter, this board will either make a final determination or send its recommendation to City Council. Would you please call the roll?
Mary McCauley,
Here.
Scott Gingold, Matt Rogers,
Present.
Mary Beth Burns.
Here.
Violetta Cullen, Myrna Aravallo,
Here.
Andrew Gallimore.
With 4 members present, we do have a quorum. Also present tonight at tonight's meeting is zoning planner Melissa Klotz. This is a formal meeting and there are rules that govern our proceedings. Most importantly, only one person speaks at a time, so all testimony may be accurately recorded. Anyone who wishes to address the board regarding any matter on the agenda will have the opportunity to do so at the appropriate time. Our procedure is to hear from staff on the documents on file and then receive testimony or other evidence from the applicant or appellant. Next, persons who wish to make a statement regarding the matter may do so at that time. Any person with a legal interest in property located within 500 feet of the subject property may present evidence, reasonably question witnesses, or seek a continuance of the hearing. When all supporting and opposing testimony and statements have been heard, the applicant or appellant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal or a closing statement. Then the board will close the record and begin deliberations. All testimony will be under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence, please limit your testimony or statement to your personal knowledge. When you address the board, please state your name and address and sign in on the provided sheet. Our meetings are audio and video recorded. Please make sure that you are at a microphone when asking questions or making statements so that you may be properly recorded. All proceedings are subject to broadcast at a later date. Any matter not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting. We do have just one item on the agenda this evening. Is the applicant for 1706 Central Street present? So with that, we will move into our agenda. The first item is the approval of our meeting minutes for October 6th. Has everyone who was in attendance had an opportunity to review, and are there any changes or edits? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I motion we approve the minutes. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. With that, we have no old business, so we'll move into the first matter on tonight's agenda, which is 1706 Central Street. Would you please read that into the record?
James, Ken, and Jeff Battenis, lessees, apply for a special use permit for a commercial indoor recreation facility, 9 Round Fitness, at 1706 Central Street. 1706 Central Street is located in the B1A Business District and the OCSC Central Street Corridor Overlay District, which requires a special use permit for a commercial indoor recreation facility to operate. Zoning Code Sections 6953 and 615.14.7. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes a recommendation to City Council, the determining body for this case. Documents included as part of the record include special use application submitted October 7th, 2015, standards form, plat of survey, site plan, soundproofing documents, image of property, aerial view of property, zoning map of property, DAPR meeting minutes of October 21st, 2015, as well as a handout that I passed around earlier regarding additional soundproofing.
Thank you. At this point, I would ask that anybody who may be speaking to us in this matter be sworn by raising their right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? I do. Thank you. If you would please step up to the lectern and tell us about your proposed project.
Thanks for taking the time to meet us tonight. So,
if you could state your name just for the record,
I apologize.
please.
Jeff Battenis.
Thank you.
All right. So, first we'll go through a just brief company overview, then our 4-stage soundproofing plan, parking and traffic access, internal planning and aesthetics, and then signage and external aesthetics. So what 9 Round Fitness is, it's a 30-minute full body workout. It's 100% staffing with a certified trainer who actually attended the 9 Round training camp in South Carolina. It caters to all ages, all demographics, all lifestyles, 30-minute full body kickboxing workout. It is We do base our workout on very sound technology. We leverage Bluetooth heart rate monitors, and we have online nutritional-based support by a registered dietitian. The motto is get fit, not hit. We don't do any combative sports inside of the facility. So the next thing I'd like to go over is the soundproofing plan. So we have a four-stage soundproofing plan. Our floor mats are 1-inch high-density PE-EVA mats. They're throughout the entire square footage of the facility, and it's 1,235 square feet. Our ceiling, there's very specific requirements within our lease. It's an acoustical drop ceiling, track isolation with above the drop ceiling. We have 3.5 inches of insulation that's required in the install. On the walls, per our franchise agreement, we have a 1/2-inch masonite panel, which are the different bricks, which you'll see in the slide that's forthcoming, a 1/2-inch soundboard, in addition to an additional 1/2 inch of sheetrock. Third is what's called a hangman. We don't hang the bags directly on the walls or on the rafters. They're isolated specifically so that any vibrations or any sounds are dissipated into the ground. Any questions on these 4 items before I get into the details?
So is the hangman sort of a freestanding piece?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have very specific parameters on this. It is freestanding, and I don't know how well you can see it, but there's 2 items. We have what's called our wrecking ball and our heavy bag right there on the bottom picture, and then the top picture is exactly how it sits. It's bolted in with very specific bolts that don't rattle, and then it's surrounded by that 1-inch high-density rubber matting, which is throughout the entire floor.
Are there other weights that are used besides the weight bag? Do you use weight balls that people throw against the walls?
No. So we don't throw anything against the walls. The masonite will actually crack. We don't bang anything anywhere. We have what's called kettlebells. They're 5-pound balls that people pick up when they're just doing some basic calisthenics and workouts. We also have some hand weights that people work with, but nothing like, I don't know if you're familiar with CrossFit, where they're constantly slamming things. We don't promote that. Actually, we don't believe it's healthy.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yep. So moving on is the soundproof wall. Here's our details. Here's the schematics. This is what's required by our franchise agreement. These masonite bricks, so to speak, will be surrounding the entire facility floor to ceiling.
I'm sorry, are there any other of these facilities, since it is a franchise in the Chicago area?
There are actually. There's one opening up shortly in Chicago. There's one in Barrington, Arlington Heights, and Northbrook, in addition to Grays Lake. The one in Arlington Heights is actually in a very similar type of business district where it's only about 1,200 square feet. It's very, very similar to what we do. So, and it was one of the first ones open.
So they've had experience with the soundproofing and being contiguous to other businesses?
Yep.
Great.
And they've been around for 4 years.
Okay.
So over those 4 years, how many franchises are there?
So we signed our franchise agreement about 2 months ago. It was at about 140. Now they're at about 175 throughout the world. They're all over the place, mostly in the United States.
And are you guys playing music?
We will
during
be playing music. Yeah. Now, we do have that certified trainer who's on site. We only have about anywhere from 3 to 7 clients in working out at any given time. It's 30-minute workout, so in and out, it's 35 to 40 minutes. It's not like your typical gym, big box gym, where you're hanging out for an extended period of time. It's catered to, well, people like me, who don't have a whole lot of time, who have families, who still want to get their workout. And the music, it has to be kept to a very minimal level because there's consistent coaching, mentoring, and training by that certified trainer on the appropriate ways to do the exercises so people are, well, getting fit.
And is that coaching happening via speakers, or is it just natural voice?
Natural voice, yep. And the music is there similar to, like, say you're doing calisthenics or an aerobic workout, but it's not designed to be extremely loud. Any other questions before I move on to the specifics for the ceiling? So these are the specific schematics in our architectural drawings, which you have the details of. And this just outlines the very specifics. It's acoustical drop ceiling, 5/8 inch gypsum barrier, 3.5 inches of additional acoustical insulation above the ceiling panels, so there's absolutely no vibration going upstairs. And this is required by the lease.
So is that sorry, two questions. One, what's required by the lease? Is that detail provided by the building?
Yeah, so it's right next to 10 Mile House restaurant, and actually we'll be having the exact same contractor who did 10 Mile House do our build out.
Okay.
They're also doing the Vanilla Box, so they'll be installing that same type of insulation.
Okay, so the ceiling, the soundproofing in the ceiling is not a 9-round company detail. It is a detail provided by the building landlord.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's residential locations above.
Right.
And it's also very important to us as a business in the area that we're making those residents very, very, very happy because they're our potential clients. Any additional questions on the ceiling? Okay. So moving on, the flooring. This is required by our franchise agreement. It's a very specific high-density polythyrene and ethylene vinyl. And it's very specific that they require. It has to be specific colors. It has to be specific thickness from a specific company. And this will also help dampen some of the sound. It's just a very, very thick, heavy-duty, high-density mat. Any questions? All right, so added controls, in addition to the fact that, you know, we as business owners are very conscious to the sound, and we're required by our lease articles and the franchise agreement. In addition to that, we've given the parameters, the drawings, everything, the lease utilized by the landlord's contractor, who is very familiar with the specific build-out requirements and the lease requirements. We decided to opt to go with that contractor after actually speaking to the 10 Mile restaurant owners. Any questions about the soundproofing at all? Okay. Next is the parking. So parking and traffic, we counted 57 total Central Street parking spaces. This is between the Central Metro Station and Ryan Field. So just that 2-block corridor there. We anticipate that the vast majority of our clients will come from within 5 miles of the area. A lot of our clientele we're hoping will be from Northwestern, young business professionals, or, you know, general practitioners in the area, business owners, etc. Hopefully people who frequent 10 Mile restaurant as well. And we actually don't anticipate that a lot of our clients will be driving. We anticipate that none of our employees will be driving. We'll have one individual staffed on site at all times.
A quick question on the having 3 to 7 clients working. I'm assuming that's at one time.
Working out.
So how does that work with your setup? Because there's 9 stations as I see it. So do people sort of stagger in and kind of move as a group through? And how does that work with one trainer?
Yeah, so with one trainer, it's very specific how it works. So it's 3-minute stations, so circuit training, with a 30-second intermittent. And we have a bell that goes off in between. And basically, people come in and they start on station 1, which is jump rope. And then they move to station 2, 3, 4, and they move on through. And it's in and out. There's 2 chairs for our waiting room. And there'll be a small retail section with some clothing.
So the most people that could theoretically be going at any one time would be 9 people.
Theoretically, 27, but if we have 27 people at a given time, it's highly, highly unlikely. I've worked out at all of the area locations. I've never seen more than 5 people, and these were peak hours.
Because the system is designed to have 3 people per station?
It can. It's highly, highly unlikely, though. For instance, the Arlington Heights one, I went in and tested it during a very peak time. So right after the train stopped, I let people off, and I basically followed the group and went in at that time, and I was the 5th person in there. Any questions about location parking?
How many, sorry,
Please.
the idea that 5 people, with only 5 people coming in, that you guys can make money and be sustainable as a business seems incomprehensible to me. So how many of these, so you say that there are 140 franchises, how many have gone out of business or are no longer franchises?
Actually, it's interesting because we asked the same question before we paid the franchise fee, and it's minimal. It's been less than 1%. And actually, there's only been 4 that have been bought back by the actual gentleman who started up this franchise. And he bought them back not because they weren't successful. He bought them back because they weren't being run properly. There's very strict quality controls. It's a monthly fee. So the way that it works is, right now, for individuals to get a certified personal trainer who's able to watch over them, show them how to exercise specifically. I mean, my brother, who's actually going to be running this, he charges $75 an hour. We'll be charging between $49 and $69 a month. So the fact of the matter is that because we cater to individuals how they want and when they want, and because we're a purpose-driven organization, it tends to have high retention rates, and a lot of people sign up for those yearly recurring payments. So it's a very sustainable business model. I personally am very metrics-oriented. I'm a 60% owner of this. I run metrics and I run schematics all day long, and in my professional life. And when I ran the numbers for this, based on the location, based on the demographics, based on the business, and the demographics that it's really catering to, it really seems like a very sustainable business model.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Any additional questions? All right, and this is just a general layout of what your typical 9-round looks like. The interior aesthetics, very specific color scheme, very specific layouts required by the franchise agreement, and then there's the drawings. Any questions at all? Okay. So the external aesthetics, we don't expect to be coming back for a sign variance. We expect to have our signage within the city parameters. And the logo, of course, is within franchise agreements. They have very specific vendors we have to utilize. No external landscaping. It's an open window facade. And that's what the location most likely will look like. All right, so that's all I have for right now. Thank you. Really appreciate your time.
So we have just a couple of questions before you, sorry. Some typical housekeeping questions that we tend to ask for anything along these lines are proposed hours of operation.
Yeah, so actually, do you want to answer?
Yeah, my name is Jim Batanis. Right now, what we're looking at is 8 a.m. This has been in flux a little bit, but in general, it's a daytime business. 8 a.m. till 12 p.m. and then close for 3 hours, and then 3 p.m. till 8 p.m. And that would be 6 days a week. We may be open on Sunday, we may not be, but it would be a half day if we were in the morning.
Okay. And I think you sort of covered off on the fact that you'll have one employee on site at all times.
Yes.
You don't anticipate having more than that.
One trainer to 10 clients. As the clients rotate through the 9 rounds, they're here, the trainer's in the middle, and there's 2 stations, I think 3 and 6, where particular attention needs to be paid to as far as technique, and so the trainer is spotting that as people.
And then is
circuit
there
through.
also a front desk person who checks people in, or is it all kind of the one person?
It's one person.
Okay.
Did you get parking? Is there parking included in your lease in the building?
No,
So, okay.
no.
I think we've covered off on that. Are there any other questions? If not, I will ask if there's anybody who wants to speak to us. I'll note that there's no one else in the room. And so if there's anything you'd like to say in summation before we begin our deliberation? You don't have
You
to
don't
say
have to.
anything.
Oh,
It's just if there's anything else you want to
mean-
say and sum up.
I would like to address your question about how could it be profitable. The typical 9-round franchise has 300 members, each one paying like $69, $70 per month. I think the Arlington Heights one that I am familiar with, they charge $79. And what happens if you've got 300, 500 clients and you're rotating, say, 5 in every half hour, you're really getting, if you're open 8 hours, now you're 40 people coming in a day. And so so you really, the target for us would be like 500. Many 9-round franchises operate at 700 members. So it's, even though it sounds like, oh, you only have 5 people there, but that's 5 every, 30 minutes, but then there's some spread time.
Right. But of the 700 who are monthly members, what percentage actually show up?
We anticipate them coming in twice.
And I know that doesn't really matter because once you get their money, you guys are profitable. So
but
that's all well and good.
If they come
I'm
in
just curious.
twice a week, 3
Yeah.
times a week, you can service that many people very
Okay.
easily.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will close the record and begin our deliberation. A reminder that we are recommending to City Council on this matter, as it is a special use. General thoughts from the board before we begin going through our standards?
I would just say that it's a tried and true business model, and there's no way that Central Street Station will want a business there that will negatively impact the tenants upstairs. So, you know, the fact that they have come up with the specifications for the soundproofing and the build-out, I think is a pretty solid guarantee that there won't be conflict. So that's what I would say.
All right. With that, we will go through the standards for a special use. We have 9 standards that we must find are met before we can make a positive recommendation to City Council. The first one being that it is one of the special uses that is specifically listed in the zoning ordinance. This is a B1A business district. And we do find that a commercial indoor recreation facility is one of the approved special uses, so that standard is met. Number 2, it is in keeping with the purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and the zoning ordinance as amended from time to time. This is one of our retail districts, commercial districts that we have in town. It is the type of place that we would expect to find this type of a facility, as well as the restaurant that sits next to it and the office that sits on the other side of it. So I believe that this standard is also met. Number 3, it will not cause a negative cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types on the immediate neighborhood. One of the things that we typically hear and have neighbors show up for when we have this type of a facility is they're worried about how sound is going to travel through the building. I think that the applicant in this particular case and the franchise itself has gone to great lengths to make sure that they have minimal impact on their neighbors in terms of any sound vibrations or other disturbances that may occur. And obviously, it is in the interest of the landlord of the building to keep all of the tenants happy, be they residential or commercial. And I think that this is probably one of the most comprehensive soundproofing plans that we've seen. And so I believe that this standard has been met. Number 4, it does not interfere with or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood. This particular property at this time, if I'm not mistaken, is vacant. And so obviously by putting in a commercial facility into a vacant storefront is what we strive to do. And if anything should increase property values. And again, because of all the work that has gone into to negate any impact from the sound, from the vibrations, that sort of stuff, I do not predict there to be any problem with property values in the neighborhood. So standard number 4 is met. Number 5, it can be adequately served by public facilities and services. This type of business, we do not anticipate having any great draw on either the utilities or other services that are provided to the building. So this standard has been met. Number 6, it does not cause undue traffic congestion. We have had testimony that a number of the people will be traveling in, but there does appear to be adequate parking as well as public transportation that arrives in this area, as well as trying to draw on the people who live in the immediate neighborhood. Because of the fact that this is really kind of an in and out type of facility with people spending approximately 40 minutes for their workout. We expect to see a high turnover, but testimony has also been provided that it typically is in the neighborhood of 5 to 7 people max. So I don't believe that there will be any undue traffic congestion. Number 7, it preserves significant historical and architectural resources. The building, to my knowledge, has no significance in terms of its architecture or historical character. We also have heard testimony that there will be very minimal change to the outside, basically the addition of a sign in order to identify the business, but other than that, there shouldn't be any additional changes, so that standard is met. Number 8, it preserves significant natural and environmental features. Because we are not increasing footprint or in any way changing the outside envelope of the building, I do believe that this standard has been met. And number 9, it complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it is located and other applicable ordinances. The Business obviously will have to apply for whatever licenses are required by the city of Evanston that are outside of the purview of this board, but we have no reason to believe that the applicant would not apply for any of those licenses and adhere to whatever other regulations are required for this type of business. So I believe this standard is met. Is everyone in agreement with my findings on standards?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. With that, before there's a motion, the typical things that we would put into our motion would be our hours of operation, the employees not being able to park on the street, although it sounds like we don't have any employees who will be driving and parking anyway, but that would be something we would put in our conditions. Is there anything else that we would need to condition? Hours of operation, the applicant had indicated an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. appears to be the outside hours of operation. So what we would do is typically grant those for this type of a business. I would hate to go too much later than that because of the residences that are above.
However, I would think that we would allow for them to operate at an earlier hour.
That's what I was going to say, was
You know,
that it might
subject
be
to the
something we'd want to
marketplace.
extend to a 7 a.m. or,
And the market will dictate that.
Right.
The people, most people will stop at a facility like this on their way to work. So I wouldn't want to condition it on hours that were too restrictive.
do you feel 7 a.m. is an acceptable?
I actually would say 6 to 10 myself, because once again, the marketplace is going to dictate
Right.
when it will be used, and if it creates a problem for the building and the residents will bring that curtailment into place.
I'll see you at 6 to 9, how's that?
Okay.
I just hate to go too late in the evening for a B1 district like this, for this
Sure.
type of a business. So that would be the recommendation, would be to make 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and that could be 7 days a week. The employees not being able to park on a residential street in the neighborhood would be the other condition. So with that, I will ask if there is a motion for a recommendation to City Council on this matter.
I move in the matter ZBA 15 ZMJ V-0090 that we recommend approval to City Council for the special use for commercial indoor recreation facility, 9 Round Fitness, that their hours of operation be 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week, that their employees park in off-street parking, and that the property is developed in substantial compliance with the testimony and documents on file.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of a positive recommendation to City Council on the matter, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With 4 votes in favor and none against, it will go to City Council with a positive recommendation, and staff will work with you on exactly when you'll be appearing before council. That is the only issue that we had on our agenda this evening. Is there anything else to bring up?
Yes, I move we adjourn.
I'll just note that we do not have our next meeting, or no, we do have our next meeting. It's the 17th.
Yes.
So
It will feel like deja vu.
What's that? Do you know if there's the full agenda that night?
We have one item for commercial indoor recreation.
everybody wants an indoor commercial.
Everybody get healthy right now.
All right, we have a motion. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We stand adjourned until November 17th.